Good day. So, in today's review, we will be discussing about temperature and Zeroth law. Before we start to our discussion, we will have first a simple pre-assessment. So, first question, which of the following can cool the coffee faster? A. Wait for it to cool down. B. Blow it. C. Put a steel spoon on it. So, next is question number 2. Which of the following does not describe temperature? A. It is the average kinetic energy of the particles. B. It is the degree of hotness and coldness. C. It is the measurement of thermal equilibrium. Okay, last but not the least, the third question, it refers to the exchange of energy. A. Temperature. B. Thermal equilibrium. And C. Heat. So please hold your answers and we will discuss the correct answers later on after the discussion. So what is temperature? Temperature is commonly associated with how hot or cold an object feels when we touch it. While our senses provide us with qualitative indications of temperature, they are unreliable and often misleading. Temperature could also be defined as the average kinetic energy of the particles. So what is kinetic energy? Kinetic energy is the average energy at motion. Now, let's find out the difference between the two particles in the figure. As you could observe, the blue particles only vibrates at its fixed station and it has a timid movement, while the red particles moved aggressively and widely in its station. So as you could see, there is a huge difference between their motion. The blue particles are in the colder state while the red particles are in the hotter state. When objects were placed in contact with each other, those objects that are in initial temperature will reach a common temperature. For example, if a hot coffee is cooled with an ice cube, the ice rises in temperature and eventually melts while the temperature of the coffee also decreases. In a separate example, in this figure, as you could observe, the object A has 40 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, the object B has 20 degrees Celsius. Now, as time passes by, these two objects that are in thermal contact decreases its temperature until it eventually equals into 13.5 degrees Celsius. If the two objects are in thermal contact, the energy can be exchanged between them. The heat energy from object A or the coffee can be exchanged to the heat from object B, which is the cup. The exchanging of energy and variation of temperature from the objects resulted to thermal equilibrium. So what is thermal equilibrium? From the term equilibrium, it equals. So yun yung sinasabi natin kanina na eventually the temperature of object A and object B equals to each other. So let the figures A and B be an example. So in 0 minute, the object A or the coffee is 70 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, the object B is 20 degrees Celsius. Now, after 5 minutes, a thermal equilibrium occurred. The object A only has 35 degrees Celsius, meanwhile, the object B has also the same 35 degrees Celsius. Kapag pantay na ang temperature ng dalawang object, ito ay tinatawag nating thermal equilibrium. At kapag nasa thermal equilibrium na ang temperature ng dalawang object, hindi na ito magpapalitan ng energy. At ang exchange of energy ay tinatawag na heat. Kung mapapansin nyo sa figure 1, pantay ang temperature ng object A at object B. So, hindi na pwedeng dumaloy ang heat dito kahit na meron silang thermal contact. Ito ang tinatawag nating Zeroth law. Zeroth law of thermodynamics states that if two systems are in thermal equilibrium with a third system, they are also in thermal equilibrium with each other. Halimbawa, kapag ang object A ay parehas ang temperature sa object C, which is the thermometer, at ang object B ay parehas ang temperature sa object C na thermometer, ibig sabihin may thermal equilibrium sila at pasok sila sa Zeroth law of thermodynamics. Now let's check your correct answers. So for the first question, which of the following can cool the coffee faster? So the answer is C. Put a steel pan in it. Kung gusto nyo lumamig agad yung kape nyo, lagyan nyo ng kutsarang bakal. Kasi, na-discuss natin kanina, it is due to thermal contact and thermal equilibrium. Which of the following does not describe temperature? The answer is C, because the first two choices directly describes temperature, and letter C, hindi niya naman minimeasure, purposely minimeasure ang thermal equilibrium. And last question, it refers to the exchange of energy, and the answer will be heat. So, ang heat, guys, tatandaan, it is just the process, diba, of a phenomena of transferring thermal energy. Heat ang tawag doon.